Hi friends, my name is Jacquelyn Fabian and I'm a board certified teacher in English language arts. I was in the English classroom as both a teacher and administrator for 13 years, and I currently serve as the Director of Candidate Experience at the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. In my current role, I am responsible for all of the resources and support that candidates receive from the national organization, and I just consider that another part of the mentorship that I have been doing over the course of my year. When I was a teacher, I started the student group LASA, which was the Latino American Student Alliance. It was a really wonderful program and still is thriving today in the Chicago suburbs. I also started a mentoring group for students of color at the middle school to be partnered with students of color at the high school. This program was called Bridging the Gap. We did student tours, we had, lunches and discussions together. We did really wonderful activities, so our middle school students felt prepared once they reached the high school setting. I also served as a virtual mentor from 2020 through 2022 for the state of Illinois. And through that experience, I got to work with 3 amazing teachers and was able to see, since I was out of the classroom at that point for some of it, how the pandemic had changed the course of teaching. And so through that experience, I was able to help coach teachers and navigate some of those major issues that everyone was seeing once we came back to a brand new school setting after March 2020. I also worked on different district courses when I was working in Naperville 203, where I taught and developed courses based around equity work and work around implementation of one-to-one devices. We really wanted to keep that work student-centered and focused on innovation. And so I wanted to make sure that educators had the equipment and the tools that they needed to ensure that their classrooms were a safe, creative space for all students. This new shift that Edifying Teachers is implementing is so amazing and is something that I really wish that I had when I was starting out as a teacher, and even when I was a veteran teacher. To this day, I have not had a mentor who is Latina, and I'm still looking for it, but I have not encountered it thus far. I don't want any other educator to feel that way. In fact, I do think that has a little bit to do with why I couldn't, especially when things got really difficult during the pandemic. Why things got so difficult was because I didn't have anybody to turn to. I didn't have anybody who was trying to navigate both the equity work and pandemic teaching, coming from a space that was so important to me, especially as a Hispanic educator. I wanted to make sure that I was doing right by my students, but I had really no one to talk to about what I was experiencing as a teacher of color during that time. So I don't want anyone to feel the way that I did, where I felt like I couldn't turn to anyone. And so that's why I think that this is such a wonderful program, because I appreciate that it is more about thriving in the classroom than it is about retention. And of course, retention is important. We want all educators to stay in the classroom, but we need them to grow. We need them to thrive. We need them to be successful, because that is what's best for students. So when I think about my why, I think about I want what's best for students. I want what's best for kids. And to have a strong teacher who is able to bring their whole selves to the classroom is so important to me, because that means then that students are able to bring their whole selves into the classroom and can bring in their culture and their experiences and their opinions and thoughts that they might not have thought otherwise to bring in. My approach to mentorship is simple. I want to get to know my mentee. I want my mentee to be able to trust me, and I want to be able to have those really important conversations. If a mentee is hiding something from me because they think I'm going to judge, that's not the way that a mentoring relationship should work. I remember when I was an administrator, I had a teacher of color who, again, never had a mentor like me. And I would coach her and talk to her. She had pretty terrible experiences with administrators thus far, people questioning her authority, people questioning the way her pedagogy. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to guide her through the year that I was with her. And because I got to know her as a person, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, I was then able to understand who she was in the classroom. And if it wasn't for that trust, I wouldn't have been able to help her achieve her tenure at the school. Trust is the most important value in a mentee-mentor relationship. If you don't have that trust, you're not going to be able to talk through the difficult things. And teaching, it can be difficult. And that's okay. And I want to make sure that there is a level of trust that if something goes awry, or if you're feeling a certain way about a lesson, that you're able to come to me and we can talk it through and we can work through it together. That is so important to me. In order for any mentee to grow, they have to fail. And that was something that I told my students when I was a teacher. That is something that I told my teachers when I was an administrator, and it's something that I tell my mentees. You're going to fail. We all do. And that is not a dirty word. It is something that will help us grow. Because I am a board certified teacher, I was able to become very skilled in reflection and ensuring that after every lesson, after every day, even if it was a not so great day, that I was able to reflect and think through why an activity didn't work, or why a student didn't respond in the way that I thought they were going to. And I had to take that moment and think through, where did something go wrong? And it wasn't to make myself feel bad, it was to make me grow. And so I want my mentees to fail. I want us to be able to talk through that. And that comes through, again, with that level of trust that we have with one another. I care about each and every person that comes through my classroom. And I want to see others succeed. And I think in order for us to all succeed, we have to be able to bring our whole authentic selves into the classroom. Again, whatever that means to you. And I want us to be able to be who we are and be proud of who we are, because students see that. I remember when I was a brand new teacher, and for my whole life, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. I was the only Hispanic kid that I knew, and I sometimes hid the fact that I was Mexican from my friends, because there would be jokes about Mexicans and there would be, offhanded comments about being Hispanic. And I, as a kid, didn't understand why that was such a controversial topic to some of my fellow students. And so I hid it. And I didn't talk about it. And even though I went home and I was so proud of my heritage and so proud of my family and proud of our traditions and wanted to scream them from the rooftops, there were very infrequent times where I did so in school. And so when I introduced myself to my first group of students as a first-year teacher, and I let them know that I was Mexican, they were so excited, because they had never had a Hispanic teacher before. And so that was the moment where I felt like, okay, this is good. This is the parts where I am able to be myself and where I am able to grow and thrive. And that's going to only benefit my students if I show up as myself and I'm able to talk about my family and I'm able to tell funny stories about things that happened. Because that's so important to building a culture that is culturally sustaining, culturally competent, and again, it only allows for better student work. I am so excited to work with Edifying Teachers, to see these teachers grow and thrive, and I can't wait to see what comes next.